Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Love Fruit podcast. And today, one of our special guests is Ted Carr, also known as @Fruitarian on Instagram. So you may have found him there, follow him there. If you don't, you can go and find him @Fruitarian. And Ted was a strict fruitarian for many years. We'll find out what he's up to these days. For at least 10 years, he was a long-term attendee and then speaker at the Woodstock Fruit Festival. He was a speaker at the UK Fruit Fest, the Danish Festival. Has been a bit of a fruitarian world traveler as well in his time. The founder of the Canada Fruitfest as well. And also, I believe, the Course Creator Academy, helping many vegans turn their ideas into a business. So, Ted, anything else you want to say about yourself in introduction?
Appreciate that, man. I think everything was accurate except the very last piece. We just ended the Course Creator Academy and we've now turned it into something else called the Vegan Creators.
Nice. Okay. So, we'll talk about that. But something I missed out there was probably the fact that you were a triathlete as well for a time. So at one point, like the first time I came across you was a video, probably on 30 Bananas a Day or something, or YouTube. And it was like this really nicely made professional video about you as this fruitarian triathlete running, picking berries, like in the in the forest somewhere, then going running and then on a bike. And you'd just you'd left college to pursue triathlon at the time. And you were doing that for a number of years, but how would let's before we get to that, so usually what I ask people is where you brought up on a vegan, vegetarian, raw vegan diet, like what's your background?
So I grew up with a mom and dad, and my dad was into cupboard and microwave and fast food. And my mom was into like, whole wheat bread and, just a bit more conscious, maybe a bit more organic type of thing, right? Not healthy as far as we're concerned, but healthier. So my dad couldn't care less about food, and my mom was like semi-conscious about what was going into our body. So I had like the devil and the angel growing up, and I always preferred eating like my dad, just junk. That was the easiest, beef jerky, popcorn, chips, whatever's in the cupboard, whatever can be microwaved, canned food, bottled food, bagged food, like just easy. And then my mom's stuff, she didn't like us like cutting the crust off the bread. She wanted to eat the crust on the bread. And I never liked that stuff, but I always knew it was good for me. But I didn't know why. I just thought because my mom said it so.
Right.
So that's pretty much how I grew up until I was about 18 or so. Then I changed my diet.
Did you have any health issues growing up?
I wasn't aware that I had health issues, but I think it's like with a lot of people. Yeah, I had health issues, but I only know that I had health issues in hindsight. Like looking back, it's like, oh, yeah, I didn't poop for like 7 days in a row. I thought that was like convenient. And I remember thinking that it's really convenient that I can go a whole week without needing to go on the toilet.
Oh, crazy. I've heard about people that do that. I didn't know that was you as well.
Yeah, I thought it was like a superpower. I thought it was like a skill. Like I didn't know it was bad.
Yeah.
And then so
what was it like when it came out? Was it like 7 days worth of food in one session?
It was just it was really big. Really big. And I also remember like in high school, I also remember like lunchtime or like near the end of the school day, I'd go and I'd drink from the water fountain and the water would taste so good. And I remember learning later that like when water tastes good, that just means you're really thirsty. Right. And so every day I drank from the water fountain and I was like, wow, this water's so good. I need so much more. I was so dehydrated, dude.
Right.
And then, I had chronic acne too, like all over my chest, my back, my face, full of acne. And I didn't think that was a health issue. I just thought it was like maybe like something in the environment. Oh, my thing cut out. I just thought it was something in the environment. I didn't know it was like something in my body.
So it's like it's weird how disconnected you can start off, and how you just interpret that as normal, like you're saying. So moving on from there, what was the first? Well, firstly, before that, you were an athlete though. Like all growing up, you were quite active, playing
Yeah.
soccer and stuff.
Yeah. I learned to, people think like I'm just making this up, but like I actually learned how to play soccer and kick a soccer ball before I could walk. So, you know how like when parents are teaching the kids to walk, they like kind of hold their hands and the kid just like walks. So my
Yeah.
parents would hold me by the hands and I would like be waddling and then there'd be a ball in front of me. So I'd be like dribbling the ball as before I can even like really stand on 2 feet. So yeah, I grew up playing soccer my whole life up until the age of like, I think like 16, 17 is when I got into smoking a lot of weed. And that's when I fell out of sport as well.
Did your dad watch soccer, or why were you kicking a soccer ball?
Big time. Yeah. Yeah. He was my coach. He was like my, yeah, all I watched. Soccer was my life, dude.
And who's your dad's team? Like, who does he support?
Just England. Like,
So your dad
yeah,
is your dad English then?
yeah, we were English, Scottish, English,
Oh,
Scottish, Irish.
all right. So right, cool. So there's not really like a Canadian league, or
What's that?
is it a Canadian league?
Uh, I mean, Canada, this is like the first year, I think, since Canada made it into the World Cup since like the
Yeah.
1980s.
I've heard that. Yeah, that's a
So
big.
we're bad, dude. We're really bad. But so yeah, so instead of cheering for Canada, we just cheered for Team England.
Right,
And
right. Yeah.
and Michael Owen was our guy.
Michael Owen. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's kind of mixed. There's mixed feelings towards Michael Owen in the UK a little bit, but anyway, so you started to smoke weed, but what like was that your first kind of lifestyle change? Like, was that the first thing? I mean, you were talking about drinking the water fountain, but apart from that, was there anything that made you sit up and go, right, I need to change how I'm living or what I'm doing?
Oh yeah, dude, it was instant. And it wasn't like I didn't plan this. It was instant. I was at such a low point in my life, a low dark spot. Like I was just getting high every day. I was getting into cigarettes, drinking every night, eating McDonald's every day. And I didn't know though. Again, in hindsight, it's obvious. But at the time, I didn't think I was in a dark place. That was just my life. You just smoke weed, you smoke cigarettes, you smoke whatever you can get. You eat whatever, especially McDonald's because it's cheap and convenient, right? Why not? And then I was also watching really dark stuff online. Like I would watch like just dark stuff, like people getting shot in the head, like sitting on the electrical chair, getting zapped to death, like people falling off buildings, committing suicide. I was just fascinated with like death and destruction. I loved seeing like volcanoes explode and just like forest fires. Like I love destruction. And my fantasy at the time was like, I would love to just go and like into a Walmart and just like knock everything off the shelves and just destroy the place. I was this fantasy of doing that. So weird. But then because I was in such a dark place, one time I was watching this documentary called Faces of Death. And it showed how a lot of things got killed. And it was like an hour and a half. And then there was like this 10-minute part of the film where it showed inside of a slaughterhouse. And up until that point, I'd never seen inside of a slaughterhouse. I didn't know what goes on in a slaughterhouse. But it showed how the pigs were treated and the chickens were treated and the cows were treated. And in an instant, I was like, fuck that. I cannot support red meat anymore. Like, there's no way. I need to become vegetarian. Like, because I had a dog growing up. I love dogs like a lot. And when I saw those animals get treated that way, I instantly knew that was not good. That was wrong. And it made me sick to my stomach. It made me angry. And so I didn't know anything about changing my diet. All I knew was that there was a thing called vegetarianism, and that means you don't eat red meat. That's what I thought.
Right.
So I immediately go on Google. I pause the film. I go on Google and I type in famous vegetarians. And I guess I type famous vegetarians because I'm like, well, if rich and successful people in Hollywood are vegetarian, then they must know something that I don't, and if it's good enough for them, it must be good enough for me. And everyone else in my life who I know is going to tell me otherwise can just shove it because, there's Leonardo DiCaprio is vegetarian, right? Ellen DeGeneres vegetarian. There's a bunch of famous vegetarians. Pamela Anderson's vegetarian, right? So I searched them up and I was like, hey, well, if that's cool enough for them, it's cool enough for me. And that got me on my path to being vegetarian. And then slowly but surely, I adopted a vegan diet as time went on. But yeah, it happened in an instant. Like from that day on, I didn't touch red meat.
Wow, you just saw that film, Faces of Death.
Faces of Death. I think a lot of people like that can be the trigger for them. It's all they need to see. They see Earthlings or, some film, and that's the switch for them.
Yeah, I saw Earthlings for going vegan for sure. So did you notice any change at all? Like changing your diet, cutting out red meat, cutting out meat and stuff?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, my camera's shutting off. I don't know why it's doing that. Now it's lagging. That's so weird, man. I noticed I instantly felt better, like ethically. Like I just felt like I was like on the high road in terms of like morals and ethics, whereas it's like that quote. I might butcher the quote, something like, where they were once blind, now they can see. Right. So for the first time, it's like, oh, this is what it's like to do something positive for others and for the planet and for myself. This is cool. And then I got into veganism, and then I started researching like benefits of food. I didn't know there was a benefit to food. Like I learned about, I think one of the first foods I researched was like spirulina. And it's like all the health benefits of spirulina. I didn't know there was like a benefit there. And I was like, oh, wow. So if I actually eat spirulina, I get a benefit that I didn't get before. That's pretty cool. Yeah. There was no connection there before.
Right. So you start to make that connection between food and how you felt.
Yeah. And performance. Because at that time I was into working out as well, going to the gym and stuff. And the going to the gym, dude, like, so at the time when I watched Faces of Death, I was in college. And I was so stressed about everything in college because I hated it. I know it was costing my parents a lot of money. I didn't want to be there. And I was like failing every class. And I would like have these panic attacks on the way to school, on the way home from school, like at school. I was just freaking out, so stressed all the time. And the only thing that would get rid of my stress was going to the gym. So I started falling in love with working out. Like as I lifted the weights, I was on the weight training, on the treadmill, on the bike, on this pool. I remember feeling like, this is like what I need. It's so important.
Wow.
And so then I started, vegetarian veganism. I kind of supported that because I was like, oh, how can I become a great athlete on a vegan or vegetarian diet? And then, it's kind of how I got back into sport.
How did triathlon come along? Was that?
I was at the gym at YMCA during college, and I was on the treadmill every day, like doing my warm up or whatever. And in front of me on the treadmill, there was a big pool. And so I was seeing the swimmers swim as I'm on this treadmill, and beside me there's like a bicycle. And so on the treadmill, there's also like these videos, like on like movies, or showing TV or whatever it was. Dude, I gotta fix my camera. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Give me a sec. Let me try something else.
Let me just pause a sec. Oh.
Yeah, cool. So as I was on the treadmill, on the video screen in front of me, it was either UFC fighters who got me really inspired to be like good and strong and fit because I'm seeing them like go to war and seeing them train. Or it was watching triathlon. Like it would show like people on the bike and swimming and running. And I thought, well, there's a bike right beside me. I'm on the treadmill right now, and there's a pool right in front of me. I'm like, I could train for that. And I missed my shot in soccer. I wanted to be like a professional soccer player growing up, but then I got into weed and that ruined that dream. I was like, this is like my second chance. If I get into triathlon now, I'm only 18. And if I train for the next 10 years, I'll be 28. I could be pro because the guys winning the championships were around like, 28, 30 years old. I was like, this could be it. And I love this. It feels so good.
Right.
And then whenever I'd go to the pool and swim, every time I'd go underwater, I'd be like, I don't know if you ever held your breath going underwater, but I'm sure you have. It's like instantly quiet and instantly peaceful under there. You don't hear anything. All the noise of the world is blocked out. You're holding your breath. You're calm. I was like, I want to spend a lot of my life underwater. I love this feeling. And I'm like, I got to become a triathlete. I got to train, man. I got to bike, run, swim every day. And so that's what got me on my journey.
That's amazing.
Trying to de-stress from college that I hated. And I
So,
dropped out very quick after watching Earthlings. After that, I think I dropped out within 2 weeks. Or not Earthlings, sorry, Faces of Death.
where did you go to college?
It's a different province. I live in BC, but I went in Edmonton to a place called Grant MacEwan. It's for journalism. For journalism.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because I've always liked writing, and that's why I appreciate your writing. I've always liked writing. I've always had a thing for it. And big reason I didn't like journalism though is because they tell you like exactly what to write and how to write it. There's not much freedom or creativity there. And when they tell you what to write about, it's always like drama and gossip, or like the latest car crash.
Yeah, right.
So it's not cool kind of writing for me.
Well, I don't know if we should mention this right now, but we've both got some contributions to the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle. I don't know if yours is written or but if anyone wants to check that out and you're watching this, it's available this week. So feel free to check that out.
What I did for that, dude, interesting how I did that is I started writing a book and I created the outline for it. And the outline's broken up into like 9 sections. So 3 sections, and within each section, there's like 3 pieces. And as I'm writing the book, I was like, got the outline dialed in, like really nice. I'm like, oh, I could just turn this outline into a course. So that's what I did. I turned it into a course, and that's why I contributed to the bundle.
Nice.
So you talk about writing. It's like, well, I tried to write a book, but then by the time I finished the outline, I was like, okay, I can just turn this into a course now.
Yeah, cool. Well, we might talk about that a little bit more later, but we'll keep going with your story. So you started off triathlon around that time. What age were you there? Like
18.
18. And so where did raw vegan come along?
So like I said, I went vegetarian, and then I did some research on how to make vegetarian diet like a better diet. So I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. And then people were talking about like the power of a vegan diet. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I should do that. And then the more I researched the vegan diet, I saw more people talking about like the raw vegan diet. And thought that was really weird. In my mind, raw vegan meant, for some reason, when I visualize raw vegan, I visualize a desert with kale and carrots. And I'm like, I don't know about the raw vegan thing, you know? And that's all I thought it was. And then I was at my aunt's house, and she had a tub of Vega protein powder that my uncle didn't want. And she's like, oh, here, your uncle doesn't like this and you need protein because you're vegan. So here, try this. And I get it. And I look, and it's like Brendan Brazier, and it talks about he's a professional triathlete and he's vegan. And I'm like, oh, that's like my dream. And it says to get his book called like the Thrive book. So I get his book, and his book, he talks about how like the optimal diet is like 80% raw, 20% cooked. And I think, because then he goes on to talk about all the benefits of raw food to justify 80%. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if 80% is really good because of how powerful raw food is, imagine 100% raw. I just got to figure out how to do 100% raw. I'm in my head, I'm like, the only reason he's saying 20% is because nobody wants to go 100%, but I'm willing to go 100%.
Wow.
So then that's how I got into it through that. So shout out to Brendan Brazier for planting that.
What's ever happened to Brendan Brazier? What's he doing?
I don't know. I don't know.
He was a big name at one point, right? In the vegan athlete.
Yeah, he sold Vega, so he doesn't own it anymore. And then I don't know what he does now. I think he's a public speaker or something.
Oh, so he actually had a supplement sort of company.
Yeah, Vega it was called, or is called.
Oh, right, nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So he's in hiding somewhere.
Yeah, or he's just, I don't know what he's doing, but
he was Canadian, right?
He is Canadian, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So you thought about going 100%. How did you get into the whole fruitarian raw vegan move?
Dude, well, this is funny. So I go on Google, I like search a bunch of different raw food websites, and I start subscribing to like every email newsletter out there to like get all the information I can. I went to the public library, got all these books I could. I just devoured everything I could possibly get. And I signed up for one of these newsletters, and then there was like this yearly contest going out called like Best of Raw or something. And I'm like, ooh, this is cool. Best of raw. It'll show me all of the raw food blogs and websites and people and books and movies. I'm like, this is cool. It's like it like collected them for me.
Yeah.
And so I didn't mean to go on there and like vote. I went in there to like, check out what they had to, who they were showcasing. And it was listed alphabetically. Well, when you list things alphabetically, guess what comes before the alphabet? Numbers.
Yeah.
Well, guess what the first number was? 3, 0, bananas a day. So I'm like, copy, paste. What's this 30 bananas a day all about? Whoa, 30 bananas a day. These are like hardcore athletes. They're into fruit. They're into this like 80-10-10 thing. Not sure what that's about. Then I got into it through there. And I remember posting in there. It's probably still on Google if you look at it. I remember posting, asking a question. I said, is 80-10-10 where, does that mean you do like 80% fruit, 10% vegetables, 10% nuts and seeds? Or should it be 80% vegetables, 10% fruit, 10% nuts and seeds? I didn't know what 80-10 meant. Right. Turns out it's got nothing to do with fruit, vegetables, and seeds. It's just that carbs and protein. But yeah, I still remember. It feels like yesterday, dude. But discovered 30 bananas a day because of the list being alphabetical, and then that got me into Harley, Freely, and the rest is history.
Wow. Yeah. Who was Harley the biggest influence at the time, or were you getting right into? For
sure. No, it was mostly Harley. A little bit of some other people. Like I remember Kevin Gianni was one of them.
Sure.
He's like one of the only ones out there, Kevin Gianni. And I believe I got into Doug too pretty early on.
Is that all through YouTube?
Yeah. But Harley's videos, dude, like I would watch those on repeat, man. Like I'd find like, cause you upload like 10-15 second clips sometimes, or like minute clips. And I would just loop those. I just wanted his life, I wanted his consciousness in my consciousness. I wanted like to adopt and make it cool. He made eating fruit cool. He's the first guy that I ever saw that made eating fruit and raw foods cool. And the first guy I ever saw talking shit about cooked food. So when you create like an enemy, like the enemy was like cooked food, it really like gets people on your side. Right. And so he was creating like this tribe of people who really believed in fruit and like hated cooked food. And like I was one of them for sure.
But his lifestyle, like even the lifestyle was aspirational as well in a way, because it
Big
wasn't
time.
like, and he wasn't like the fancy cars, the big, it wasn't that. It was like this lifestyle of freedom and this lifestyle of like fitness, freedom in connection with nature. Like it was watching his videos back then, and I'm the same. Like I watched his videos a lot, and he was in my consciousness. I had dreams about him sometimes and stuff like that. I remember that.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys that like we'd probably both say he was like a hero at the time.
Oh.
And he didn't. He's like you shouldn't meet your heroes, but he's actually, well, to me he was always cool. I always liked meeting Harley, But that really sunk the dream in. And I don't know if you were at the first Woodstock, so you saw that, you were part of that kind of dream as well in that moment. But yeah, I think back then, like there was so many athletes kind of getting into the raw food thing at that time, and young athletes. It's pretty crazy looking back. It's kind of swung a little bit. It's like there's a lot of detox and stuff now.
It's heavy. It's heavy on the detox now.
Yeah, too much. But so you were getting into Harley stuff. Did you just straight away get into fruit? How long did that transition to a raw vegan diet take? Was it difficult at first? All that stuff.
I didn't know how to do it properly. Like there wasn't someone just didn't give me a clear template on day one and says, here, just eat this. If they did, that would be great. But I had to kind of figure it out myself until I found certain people like Harley and Doug and like Freely and kind of piece it together. And, I had to ask a lot of questions, but I had really bad acne. And that was like one of the reasons why I wanted to get into raw food as well, to help speed up the clearance of this acne. And so when I first went fully raw, I thought that was going to get rid of my acne, but it didn't. It made my acne just as bad, but it made me feel sick because I did such high fat. I remember one meal, man, it was so bad. I had a meal I did. I was driving up to my cabin, which you've been to, And I was eating on the drive up there, I was eating pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, walnuts, cashews. And I had a couple avocados, and then I would have some olives as well. And then I got to my cabin, and I decided a good idea to eat some oranges on top of all that. So I eat some oranges. And then like a few hours later, man, I like got so nauseous and I just vomited it all up.
Oh,
And then my
wow.
dad saw that, and he's like, "Oh, it's all that raw food. That's not good. Like, you got to eat some real food." And the last thing he saw me eat was oranges, right? And then I
Yeah.
vomited up, and like you can see everything's on the ground. It's gross. And the next morning, what do I feel like eating? Well, I feel like eating a bunch of oranges for some reason. I feel like just like cleansing my palate and just eating a bunch of fresh oranges. And so that morning I ate a ton of oranges, and I remember being so proud of that meal. It was like my first mono meal. I took a picture of it right by the lake. And then my dad comes out and he sees me eating all these oranges after I had just puked the night before, and he thinks I'm insane. But yeah, when I ate just fruit, I felt the best. And so after that puking incident, I realized that I felt my best on just fruit. And then soon after, I went just fruit for a couple of weeks, and my acne cleared up in 2 weeks. Bam.
Wow. And did you kind of back and forth before you stuck with the raw diet, or did you?
No, I wouldn't say back and forth. I wanted to be fully raw for like, I'd say a couple months, but every time I got to dinner, I wanted some cooked food. And at first I didn't know that was like a craving. I just thought like, oh, I just feel like some cooked food. That's all.
Yeah.
But then like more and more days would go by, and I would like really commit. I'm like, okay, tonight I'm going to have raw. And then dinner time would come, and like, ooh, but I want some cooked food. And then I'm like, hang on a minute. This reminds me of when I used to say I'm going to not smoke weed tonight, but then I had to smoke the weed.
Yeah.
And it was the exact same pull towards the thing that I said I don't want. And then that's when I realized I had like a cooked food addiction. I had to kind of overcome that. But eventually I got over that and was able to go a full day fully raw. And my first day fully raw, I remember waking up the next morning and being like, oh my God, I'm still alive. I didn't die. I fully raw all day long and I'm still alive. This is crazy.
Amazing. Yeah. Did you what was I going to say? Did you I'm not sure I was going to ask there, but basically so you went for the raw then, but what were like, you've already talked a little bit about your dad's reaction, but like friends, family, people around you, like what was the general reaction of you doing this?
I'll
8 years old or whatever, 18 years old.
Yeah, it was like when my friends first found out I went vegan, dude, I was in the middle of bench pressing and I had a spotter. My friend was spotting me, and then he's supposed to like help me up, right? And then someone else comes up to him and he's like, "Oh, do you know Ted's vegan now?" And he's like, "What? You're vegan?" And he just like walks away from the bench press. And I'm like, "Dude, I need your help." And he didn't even like lift me up on the bench press because he found out I was vegan. So I had to finish that last set rep myself. But that's how my friends took it. They were not down for that at all. I thought it was super weird, super like hippie or whatever of me. And then my mom was super worried about it. She was printing off all these papers. I don't know why she printed them off, as if she couldn't just send me a link, right? She sent me like websites on paper, like, here, read this, all about like protein deficiency and stuff. And then she realized she couldn't change my diet, so she offered to like buy me unlimited protein powder, thinking that was like gonna cause me to die if I didn't have protein.
Oh wow.
And then my dad just thought I was a lunatic. He got like really upset that I was eating all these oranges so much, all these monomeals of oranges. And he's like, you know what? He's like, one time he was like yelling at me. He's like, your grandma, she would have half a grapefruit a day. And I was like, why'd she only have half? He's like, because that's all she needed. He sees me with this entire island. There's like freaking 100
like
pounds.
Like you're being greedy. Like you're mocking your grandmother.
Yeah. So then my sister starts getting onto it as well. And then my dad finds out that she's eating this way too. And he's like, oh, you brainwashed your sister now too. Yeah. So, I mean, they finally came around. I mean, the results, people want results, right? And so when I started winning triathlons, winning races, that kind of shut everyone up.
So you were doing that already, like
yeah,
early on? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
But if you suck at sport like fitness and you're losing races and your diet is really weird everyone's going to say, oh, you're losing because your diet, right? But then you start winning races, right, with a lot of training and a good diet. And then people will say, the haters at least, will be like, oh, imagine how much faster you could be if you weren't eating that way.
Yeah.
But the people around you closest, like, oh, maybe that diet does work after all. So
yeah, how like, so a lot of people on this diet, they make a mistake of not eating enough. That's one of the major things people do when they start. Did you ever run into that?
oh
Especially,
yeah, yeah. That's how I learned how to overcome cravings. That's how I learned that cravings only come when I don't eat enough. And I remember this one day in particular, I'm going through the cupboards and I'm like, dude, there's nothing good for me in the cupboards right now in this house. I'm going through the cupboards. I'm like physically aware of my movement, pulling the cupboard. I know there's nothing in there. And then I stop and I'm like, what have I actually eaten today? What have I actually eaten today? And I did the math and I'm like, I've had like 600 calories and it's 4 p.m.
yeah.
No wonder I'm craving. Let me just go make a quick smoothie right now. I'll have 1,000-calorie smoothie. I'll put 10 bananas in there. I'll see how I feel after that. So I go make the smoothie. Don't even want it, but I make it anyway just to get the calories in. And then boom. After that, I'm like, okay, I'm good.
You said something interesting there. You don't even want it, but you had it anyway, and then you felt like it's so to me that's so funny is that, like, the story you were telling earlier on was you were sort of so disconnected from your body that a week of not going to the toilet, you don't even realize it's a bad thing. And you've got acne and all this stuff happening. And a lot of people are in that situation. They go on a raw vegan diet and they eat 600 calories in a day and they're like, but I don't feel hungry. And it's like you're just so disconnected from your body's messages that, like, you're not even, you can't trust that yet. Like, you need to do
it's yeah. So there's two pieces there. Number one is the disconnect. Absolutely. People aren't aware of like how they should feel after certain foods. And they're not aware that food has an effect on the feeling. That's number one. They're not connected. They're not in tune like that. But number two is physically, their stomach hasn't had the chance to stretch and get flexible enough to succeed on a fruitarian diet. So if you grow up for 20 years or more, like most people, on dense foods, you can fit 1,000 calories into, like, you know, that much, right?
Yeah.
Cram full, like, you know, just fatty, oily, you know, dense carbohydrate foods or fats, whatever.
Sure.
But then on a fruitarian diet, so this is 1,000 calories uncooked, but on a fruitarian diet, you need like this much space for 1,000 calories. Yeah. And so your stomach doesn't become like a ballerina overnight. You actually have to, like, a ballerina takes years to stretch. When you stretch your belly, you need to spend months stretching it out. And then this is why so many fruitarians get so fat when they eat cooked food after, because now that their stomach is so flexible from eating high volume fruit, they go and eat cooked food and they go, I can fit more. It's like, yeah, you can fit more for sure. Because number one, you're relapsing on a drug. And number two, it's so dense and you're so flexible, you can fit way more in you. So then you get fat.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Or maybe that word is offensive to some people. We'll just say, like, they carry on excess weight that they don't want to carry on very easily.
Yeah, man. More to love. A little bit more to love. But curvy, we call it curvy.
Curvy.
Thick.
We call it thick.
We say thick. Yeah, so let's, like, some people talk about, you know, we can talk about some of the physical changes and things that went on, but you also you're talking about your mental, emotional life, the sort of things you were visualizing when you were younger. How did that all change, and your emotions and everything? What changed for you on a fruitarian diet? Like, what happened?
I used to get triggered really easily. Like, I would snap. Like, I used to have temper problems, like some people in my family. And I would just snap, like this microphone, bam, I would just smash this mic and it would go and you'd probably break the computer screen. You know, like I could freaking just snap. Haven't experienced that on fruitarian diet. Like, as soon as I became fruitarian, like, nothing got under my skin. Like, I was so peaceful. My aunt one time even said to me, she's like, Ted, you're so peaceful. And I'm like, well, that's how I feel. I'm just feel very peaceful. And I used to, like, freak out and get anxious when I was, like, driving and I get lost or miss a direction. Well, on a fruitarian diet, I noticed if I got lost, missed a direction, I'm like, oh, it's okay. I'll figure it out. But it was just so chill. Shit, my sister used to say would really trigger me and really piss me off.
Yeah.
Like, but now it's like, I'm just on a fruitarian diet. It's just so chill. So
Yeah.
that was a huge thing. The moods, man, the moods. It's
Beautiful.
as Anne Osborne says in her book, she says it's rare that you meet a gloomy fruitarian. Right. And you don't, when you visualize someone being sad, you don't visualize someone crying over a watermelon, you know? You don't visualize someone drinking orange juice and crying and thinking my life sucks as I drink fresh orange juice.
Yeah, for sure. They're not climbing fruit trees, depressed. Man, you can't climb a tree and not be happy. Like that's just instant pickup. Um, so I guess you were involved online, like the online kind of forums and stuff. And is that how you found out about Woodstock? And or did you go to any events before that? Did you meet anyone else, any raw vegans before that?
I think I went to Brendan Bridger talk one time, saw him in person briefly, but no, it was like I was just following Harley Freely, the 30 Bad crew, and then got into Mike Arnstein through the blog on 30 Bad, and then Mike became like my hero, still is my hero. And then when he talked about he's putting together a fruit fest, I couldn't believe it. It's like holy shit! Like I feel responsible for creating that festival because I like that was like my idea before it was ever Mike's idea before I ever spoke it. Like I just like dreamed of something like that, and then it manifested. Mike was the one to put it together, obviously, but he definitely read my mind and created that just for me. I feel it was like my festival. So when I went there, I was like, oh, I felt home. I still do. Every time I go, I feel like I'm at home.
Yeah. Like I wasn't at the first one. I know you're at the first one, and I just saw the videos from that, and I was just always like the videos of that event, the emotions and the people come across so strongly. Like when you see like Christina talking about it, even Doug, Harley, like they're all like overwhelmed. It comes across on the camera, right? And that's like the first time they all kind of got together in this big group and everything, and it was powerful. Talk about that. Like, tell me about that event.
Dude, I've never felt that way before. I never felt that way since. But when I showed up, I was late, and everyone had already like gathered in this room, and they had like this speakers panel. They were introducing all the speakers, or the pioneers they called them at the time. And I walked into that. I walked into the room. I was at the back. Everyone's all seated, and then you could see the pioneers at the front. And I remember walking into that room, dude, and like, I just remember feeling this overwhelming sense of like, I'm in the presence of greatness. Like, I'm in the presence of greatness right now. These are living legends, and I can like physically touch them. I can go up and them, like touch them on the arm, like they're real. They're 3D. Like they're there. And the energy, bro. Like you talk about someone has a raw food glow, dude. There's a panel of pioneers with that glow.
But at that point as well, everyone was like really super perfect on the diet, right? Like everyone was like,
yeah. There was
really low fat, really
there was
low
nobody
fat.
talking shit about 80-10-10. 80-10-10 was like the diet that it was so good that nobody could hang on to. Like it was the perfect diet, but like it wasn't for the weak. Everybody wanted it, but a lot of people couldn't make it work.
Yeah.
But those who could make it work, they were like, glorified. And
Everyone in that video is like a little leaner, like a little fitter, a little young. You know what I mean? Like even by the next year or the next couple of years, like people were a little bit. It was. I just think at that time, especially Harley and Freely, and it's funny because they started to change a little bit, but they were militant back then. Like they were kicking people off the forum for saying,
yeah, if you mention cooked food on 30 Bad, dude, you're out. And then it got to a point where if you talk shit about cooked food, you're out.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely saw that in Harley's videos. I remember I was following him, and all of a sudden he started to say, he started to change his message to like, and if you can't get enough fruit, eat as much carbohydrates as you want. I was like, wow, that's different. Like, what? He's never said that before. And it's just clear to me like something's changed. You know what I mean? His message has changed. Yeah. So did that event sort of inspire you as well to keep on going down the road of like, you became a coach, you were helping people, you started to do some ebooks a little bit back then. Like
Yeah,
you
dude.
you weren't really an influencer straight away. Like I think it was because I met you at Woodstock a couple of times and you hadn't really put much out yet.
Mm, yeah. Uh, when I went to the first Woodstock, I remember thinking I remember finding it really interesting. There were some people there that had signed up for Frederick Patnode's business coaching course or something on how to succeed as like a vegan influencer.
Right.
And this is like, again, it's almost like 10 years ago, right? When was that?
2011. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 10 years ago. And so some dude had signed up, I won't mention his name just to, not mention his name, but he had signed up for Frederick's course. He paid like $5,000 or something. And I was like, you paid this guy $5,000 to learn how to make a business? Like, why don't you just make a business? But that let me know that like having your own business, being an influencer is a thing that you can actually like deliberately choose to do. I just thought it was like who you are,
Right.
I didn't realize there was like something to it. I just thought you're either a Durian Rider, you're a Freely, you're a Robert Lockhart, you're an Ann Osborne, or you're not. I didn't realize you could actually do stuff to like become someone. And here these people were, they were paying this guy money to learn how to become someone. And I thought it was really weird. But then I go home and I do some digging and I try and like start putting some stuff together. And I'm like, I have no idea how I would even start my own business. And then the following year is when the Woodstock, I ran into Joey and he talked about how he runs his business online. And he taught how people how to make money there. And I thought, oh, cool. Like that's how you actually do it. And really inspired me once again. But yeah, it definitely inspired me to become an influencer. But I didn't think you needed coaching for it. And a lot of people don't, they just have a crazy good physique and they can just become someone with some pictures, But a lot of mere mortals, myself included, like we needed actual coaching to become somebody, if you will.
Well, it's weird. I mean, it's not like an intuitive thing for a lot of people. Like a lot of people that they do the opposite of what they maybe should do. Like their instincts are totally different to what they would help them succeed. But yeah, I remember. So I went to Woodstock the next year, and I maybe briefly chatted to you, but it was probably literally like, "Hey, I saw you in that video." All right, cool. There was probably like that was it, right? But there were some classes on about doing YouTube, or like I think Harley might have had a class about doing YouTube, and maybe there was another class on that kind of stuff. But I remember like not wanting to go to the class, like kind of the way you're saying, like it felt to like try and figure out some way to do it. Like it didn't seem right, or I don't know. It's weird looking back because it probably would have been super helpful looking back. But like, but yeah, I mean, how did that progress? I mean, at that time as well. So you were pretty much a strict fruitarian by that point. And how was your life going? Like, how did that? I guess you were trying to be a triathlete, and then you were also trying to be or you started to try and be an influencer, or what? How did that all kind of flow?
I was just documenting my journey as a triathlete, showing people how to do it as a fruitarian. I thought that was a cool thing. But the way I got started actually was I didn't want to be in Canada eating crappy fruit during the winter. I wanted to like travel the world and see what it's like to be a fruitarian in different parts of the world. So I created a channel called Fruit Living, where it's like my life is me living, eating fruit around the world. That was going to be like my thing. So I created Fruit Living. And my first stop was Panama, and with George, who I think you know.
Yeah.
And then I went to Costa Rica, and I went to a few different places, and I just documented what it was like to eat fruit on these different places. But then I realized that as I was traveling to these places, I couldn't bring my bike with me. So I was losing like strength on my bike. And so I started doing 100 squats a day, and I created a new channel called 100 squats a day, documented that. You got into that. I think you were like one of the first people to like send in a video showing your squats.
Yeah.
And that's how you got on my radar. I think you uploaded a video of you in Chiang Mai. And I remember
Yep.
thinking like, who is this skinny ghost white Scottish guy doing these squats on this nice green spot in the bright sun in Thailand?
That weird park in Chiang Mai,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
processed park.
So I was just documenting, showing people like how to do stuff. And I think that's what YouTube's meant for. It's like going on there, teaching people how to do stuff, how to do squats, how to eat a fruitarian diet, how to do it as an athlete, how to overcome cravings. And I didn't have back then what I have now. And I wish I didn't have what I have now. I'm working on it now. I need to get rid of it. But back then I didn't have any sense of like, what do people want to hear or see? I just put up whatever the F I wanted to put out.
Yeah.
There was no like, I wasn't planning on like, oh, I'm going to put out this video because of this reason. And then I'll say this to make sure that happens. It was just like, I'm just going to make a video. And so I made hundreds of videos like that. And I need to get back to that place, dude. That's been lacking. I'm in like this like 2 or 3 month like rut of not putting out any content on YouTube because I'm always like, oh, I don't know like what I should put out. But I need to get back to just pumping out the content like that, man. Because that's it's fun. It's fun to do. It's rewarding. It's fulfilling. I get people still to this day, bro, like 10 years later saying, Ted, I've watched like all your videos and they were so helpful. And
yeah,
I'm like, fuck, what have I been doing for the past few months? I've been not doing any videos. I need to get back to that because they're so helpful. They're life-changing for people. So yeah.
So
But I wouldn't have got into that hardcore if it wasn't for Harley, because Harley was all about content.
Yeah.
I love that message, man.
Well, you know, and Harley got that from, like, I remember, so I never realized how much that these guys were thinking about this, but obviously it was like their business, I guess. But like, I remember Harley was saying, I don't know if it was at Woodstock or something, and he was thinking about Dan the Man. And at that point, Dan McDonald was the top raw vegan YouTuber and influencer online, probably. And he might have been like the top vegan online at the time, do you know what I mean? And the biggest channel, the fastest growing channel, most views. And Harley just went, right, I need to do a video every day. Because that's what Dan, like, and I don't remember, like, Dan McDonald would go and like have a telephone call with someone and just upload it, like an hour-long phone call where like you don't hear the other half of the call. And he would just upload everything. Like, it was like, I wasn't watching all of his stuff, but like every now and then I would pop in and it'd be like, he's literally just uploading a random phone call. And like, people just loved it. They just loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of became friends at the next Woodstock. So I kept on going to Woodstock and met you there a bit more.
I feel like so you came on my radar with that first 100 squat video that you uploaded, but I feel like we bonded when you did 500 squats with me. I feel like we went through hell and back together. And I saw how much you pushed yourself, dude. Like, I saw the strain in your face. I could feel it emanating from you. Like, this dude just pushed himself to the brink and you collapsed after. And you were
not fit. Yeah, I was not fit.
Your legs were destroyed for the next 7 days, dude.
Yeah, but around about that time as well, I did the Woodstock Marathon. I don't know if it was the day before or the day after, but I did the Woodstock Marathon.
The marathon took place like at the end of the festival. I think it was like one of the last days. And I think we did those squats on like day one. So you had like the 4 months of the festival to recover and heal up and then hit it hard.
Yeah. I didn't get to 500. I got to like 3 something.
Really? I'm pretty sure you did 500, dude.
Okay, well,
we have a video of it. There's a video of it on YouTube.
Right. I'll go and check. But yeah, I mean, so I can't. The funny thing is, so this is a really funny thing, is when we were starting to do the UK Fruit Fest, we did this flyer. Why we did a flyer, I don't know. Did we ever send it out? I don't like. But we had a flyer, right? I've still got a bunch of them, and and we were just looking for pictures for the flyer, and Simon was doing the pictures and everything, and we must have asked Woodstock, like, can we use some of your pictures? And they're like, yeah, sure. And Simon was like, well, these are the best pictures, and it was one of you. I think there was one of Doug, and you weren't part of the first UK Fruit Fest, but you were there on the picture, on the flyer, which is weird. And then I remember visiting places to try and put the event together. And you were in my mind. I was thinking, I don't know if this is the second year or one of the other years, but you weren't there yet. But I had you in my mind, like imagining you being there. And then as you as an influencer were kind of growing, you start to come to some of the events, UK Fruit Fest in Denmark, and I don't know if you went to some of the other ones in Europe, but obviously you were over in Thailand a lot. Then you started speaking at Woodstock, all that stuff. So you started to, I guess that started to become your lifestyle a little bit.
In the summer.
In the summer, yeah. And were you like, at that point, did you start to make money online at that point? And was your YouTube channel making you money? What was happening for you then?
Yeah, my income source was three main income sources. It was YouTube ads, and then I had an ebook, I guess four. So YouTube ads, ebook, course, like a 30-day raw food challenge, and then health coaching.
Yeah. And you got a little bit of money, I guess, from some of the events and stuff like that. And
it was mostly just covered airfare and some food and rent or something. It wasn't much.
Yeah. What do you remember about some of those events, like some of the UK Fruit Fest you came to, and
the one key takeaway I have from those events, especially like the UK Fruit Fest, and yeah, I remember specifically UK Fruit Fest one time. I was there and I was dancing. It was like starting to rain a little bit. It's the evening time. I was dancing in this group with Roger and Sasha and Ann Osborne, and I'm not much of, I don't consider myself like a dancer. I like to dance, but like, I'm not like a great dancer, whatever. But I'm just like there, like vibing, chilling, like basically dancing like this, you know, just doing my thing. And I remember thinking like, I remember feeling like I don't have anywhere else to be. This is exactly where I'm meant to be. Like, I guess, I don't know how old I was, 28 years old, 27 or something. But like 27 years of life have brought me to this moment right here to be here. This is where I'm supposed to be. If I'm anywhere else right now, that's wrong. I feel like I'm home and I don't need to do anything. I don't need to check my phone, check the email. Everything is like taken care of for me. This is where I need to be. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I feel so at home and so perfect right here.
Yeah.
And I was like everything, I remember thinking everything I do throughout the year, all the social media I do, all the emails I do, all the business work I do, all the coaching I do, all the money I make, all the money I save, it's all so that I can just be here and experience this. It's all for this. And I remember on one hand, it was like very beautiful. And on the other hand, it was kind of sad because I'm like, fuck, because this is going to be over in like 3 days. And I'm going to have to go back to like reality and I have to wait another year just to experience this again. Like, that's not right. That's not right. Like, that needs to be fixed. And that gave me an idea. I wanted to create something called Fruit Fest 365, where there's like an Airbnb, but for fruitarians. So I went home after the UK Fruit Fest. I tried to like put some fruitarian Airbnb thing together. A lot more work than I thought it was going to be. Never ended up coming to fruition. But I started on that project because I felt so good being surrounded by fruitarians. I wanted to be surrounded by fruitarians more often. I thought there could be a Fruit Fest 365 days a year somewhere. Just go to someone's house.
Yeah, I remember you sometimes made posts at the end of Woodstock. I remember you made a Facebook post and it was like you and Cappy or something, and you said like you were writing down this dream of like wanting to go from one festival to another. It was like kind of an amazing idea. To some extent, that happened a little bit in the summer.
Oh yeah, in the summer that's what would happen exactly. It was like bam, 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 four festivals in a row.
And eventually, well, let's talk about some of the other people. Like, say Doug Graham. Like, you got a chance to spend more time with Doug. What's your thoughts on Doug?
Dude, just had a Zoom call with him like 48 hours ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he feels like I don't want to insult the guy, but he feels like a grandpa to me. You know, like he feels like like a grandpa. He feels like part of my family. He's like that. I don't think he just has that effect on me. I think he has effect on a lot of people. Like he has this effect where like it's really easy to let him in. Like this thing keeps shocking me. So if you see me like freak out a bit, it's because this thing shocks me. But yeah, like he's very nice and very friendly and very welcoming, and Rosalind too. And I looked up to him and Rosalind big time. Like if you go, I mean, you know Rosalind, you know how she speaks. She speaks like an angel. You listen to one of her talks, you listen to Doug talk. They're both great speakers, and it's like so easy to like respect them. And then when they actually like talk to you, you feel so appreciated. You're like, wow, like they're actually talking to me. And then they like, yeah, they would invite me to come stay at their house. And it's like, wow, I can stay at their house. And they like brought me into their family, dude. So it was very appreciative of that. And dude, if it wasn't for 8010, if it wasn't for Doug writing that book, like we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. There'd be no Woodstock Fruitfest, Canada Fruitfest. I wouldn't have made all the best friends I've had. I don't think I'd be raw vegan.
Yeah.
I'd probably still be eating cooked food, thinking the raw vegans are just quacks, you know?
Yeah.
Doug like created the game plan, and then like Harley made it cool.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I always thought they kind of needed each other a little bit. Yeah. So this all led to some degree to the Canada Fruit Fest. So where did that all come together? Where did the idea come together? What was it?
Canada Fruit Fest, man. I still remember when we first talked about it. We were on the phone, and I remember you, I think it was your idea, dude. I think it was your idea. But I remember being on the phone, and I remember asking you something like along the lines of like, really? Like, do you think it could work? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it would work. And I remember feeling like, wow, if Ronnie's confident in it and Ronnie can help, then yeah, let's do it. But I don't know if it was your idea or our idea or what, but I'm pretty sure like, I don't know. What about you? What do you remember? How do you remember it initiating?
I think you kind of talked to me at the UK Fruit Fest, right? And you were like, did you do this? And I'm like, yeah. And you were like, but you're kind of, I remember you saying, but you're sort of relaxed and like you're not stressing out and and I think you mentioned the idea, like you like the idea of it and then of doing a festival. And I thought it was a great idea. I was like, Canada, like perfect, like Chris, Melissa, immediately like the people are coming into my life. They'll all love it. They'll all want to be part of it. Who else? Ashley. Like there was just so many people immediately. And I already knew like how many people you brought to the UK festival and like how many like the influence you had. And I was just working all that out and just going, and then if those people are helping out, like it's just inevitable. Do you know what I mean? Like it's inevitable. I think that you were interested in the idea, but you're also a little bit like hesitant. Like you were kind of like maybe I think you were kind of like maybe you're doing next year or maybe like something. So I might have sort of convinced you like we can definitely do this. Like this is absolutely this can work. And I think that I remember this thing of you saying, I have this memory of you saying, do you think we could get 30 people? And I was like, I think we can get 100 people. And then we got like 250 people at the end. And we probably could have got more. Like it's
this is cool. So when we first started working on it, it was at a time in my business where I started feeling really bad about just like pushing my course on people and saying, buy my course, buy my course, buy my course. I didn't like to keep saying buy. And you had this, and then the idea of a festival is cool because that means I could like put this course selling thing on pause for a bit and focus on, selling something different, might be better. But I still don't like the idea of saying buy. And then you had this idea of like, hey, let's host a free giveaway contest. And we'll give away like 10 tickets or whatever. And then whoever doesn't win, we'll get thousands of entries. And whoever doesn't win, we'll just give them like a discount on the ticket. And we'll get all the influencers, all the presenters to promote this free ticket giveaway. And I was like, dude, that's genius. So we did it. And it was amazing because we were able to get like thousands of emails and didn't have to promote anything for sale. We just said free ticket giveaway. That created all this hype for the festival, right?
Yeah.
And then when we launched our tickets, we had a good email sequence go out there, building people up for launch day, deadlines, and we crushed it, man. We made a lot of sales in like the very first day.
Yeah, I think that it worked kind of way better than I thought. Like it was kind of based on an idea that had come together with the UK Fruit Fest of like doing a launch day and the free ticket giveaway to try and build an audience and all the influencers promoting that and stuff. And that had been working quite well, but it worked way better when it was like for Canada Fruit Fest. And there was something about even when you start, we were doing the advertising and you did some Instagram advertising, and the advertising was working like unbelievably well, like way better than it was. Just I remember there was a point we were just watching people sign up for it, and it was like this. It was just so like
Yeah.
and that I was just thinking like that must be like not just Canada or whatever, but I think that you had enough of an influence as well that people kind of knew, all right, that guy, you know what I mean? Like they saw you connected with it as well. And that probably made it more powerful. And then
We had a killer lineup though of presenters too.
the Instagram then was powerful, like probably powerful in terms of, and I was going to ask you that as well, like how influential in your life do you think having that at Fruitarian Instagram account was?
A
Because
good question, dude. I don't know. I think maybe it's hard to know. It's hard to know. Maybe I'd say it has like a little bit of bonus effect, giving me like a bit of like trust factor or something. The fact that I have that username Fruitarian, but at the end of the day, people have to like me, right?
yeah, yeah.
So you could have the username like Bob or, you know, Angela, but if you're a dink or a douche or no one likes you, like it's not gonna. It doesn't matter what your username is,
Yeah.
you know. But I think that username, what's cool, the issue with a lot of usernames is like it doesn't tell you what the person's about. Fruitarian tells you what I'm all about. In a username, you have a snapshot of like what I'm about, which is a pretty cool. Like when you say like, I don't know, you think you're just like Fruity Ronster or something. I mean, that gives people an idea what you're about. But I think that's a tip for picking a good username. Just make it so it lets you know, lets everyone know what you're about. Like raw food romance. It's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some people have said to me, well, maybe not that many, but some people have said like when they got into fruitarianism, they immediately just searched for fruitarian, and you were the first, like you're the guy up or whatever on Instagram, and they were sort of following some of those accounts straight away. But yeah, Canada Fruit Fest, amazing like launch, right? 147 people or something signed up on the first day, like amazing.
Psycho.
A great list of people, a pretty amazing lineup. There was Doug was there, Chris, Melissa, John Kohler, Dr. Sam was there the first year or the second year.
It's hard to remember now. It's a bit of a blur. I don't even know if Chris was able to make it or did he have an accident?
Yeah, you might be right about that.
I don't know if he was able to make it the first year. I could be wrong. I don't think he was though. Maybe it was the second. It's hard to know. It's a bit of a blur.
There was, but yeah, there was a lot. But there was a lot of crazy things.
We had Elise and Ravana.
Yeah, like months before they.
Yeah.
The other.
Yeah. Oh, we had like Johnny Juicer.
That's right, Johnny Juicer.
We had a bunch of big names, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Bombargo, that like band that's like now famous. We got Bombargo.
That was a great, so that was a great thing. So it was a great start. What do you I mean, what's your whole picture of like the first year of that festival? Like what's your like memory and everything, and what's your kind of take on it?
A lot of things. There's
a lot of work, right?
There's so many moving pieces. Yeah. And prior to starting that, dude, like I wanted to like tell Mike at one point, I was like, dude, like I'll buy the Woodstock Fruit Fest. If you're ever going to sell it, I want to buy it. Like I would love that business. I had no idea what I was in for. And he kept telling me, he's like, Ted, you never want a Fruit Fest, man. He's like, they're a disaster. They're a headache, so much stress. You don't want one. And I was like, no, man, you have no idea. I want one. Then when I had Canada Fruit Fest, I was like, fuck, now I know what Mike's talking about. I don't want to deal with this. It's so much headache. Because, dude, if somebody breaks a leg and sues you, you're screwed. Not screwed, but you're in a lot of doo-doo. If it rains the whole time, that sucks. If there's forest fires, you're screwed. You know, if if there's some virus going around and it has to shut down, you're screwed, right? If the fruit doesn't show up, you're screwed. If the fruit doesn't ripen up on time, you're screwed, right? And there's like, it's kind of, a lot of the stuff is out of your control. You just have to hope that everything goes right. So that aspect I didn't like, but it's very fulfilling when everything does go right. When the fruit shows up, it's ripe, the people show up, nobody's sick, nobody gets hurt, the weather's great. That's the ultimate, right? But like, again, a lot of that is out of your control. You can plan for the best, but a lot of it's out of your control. So that was going on the whole time, like trying to make sure like everything is working well. And I didn't look at finances at all. I was like, we're going to just, here's how much money we made from ticket sales. Let's just like spend it all so we can at least break even. And then
that was not my plan. Like in terms of how we were working on the event, that's not how I expected. I was wanting to make sure you had money in your pocket at the end of this thing. Like,
so
I was desperate to make that happen.
That would have been
nice.
Every
other festival ends because people don't make money and they lose money and stuff.
Yeah. So finances were not like a main focus. And it was just like, hey, let's get a bunch of money and let's spend it to make a great party, build a good first impression for everyone, and then make money next year, perhaps, right? So we made a bunch of sales. And then what happened was we advertised or made it very clear to people that, okay, the festival is happening August 7th. You can get a refund up until August 1st. And so, dude, like 2 or 3 days before August 1st, it was refund. And there was like dozens and dozens of refunds coming in, and they're like a couple $100 each, right? So start adding up very fast. And it's like, but that's a week before the festival. We had already spent that money on everything to like break even. And now we're getting refunds. Now we're going to the freaking minus. So that's a big takeaway from that first festival, is just losing so much money.
I know, but to me, this all goes back to a conversation maybe a couple of months before, because obviously we're working on this thing together. And then I just thought after the launch, I was like, this can't go wrong. Like, this cannot go wrong. There's no way that this goes wrong from here. There's not money left over there. Like, and I wasn't watching it as closely and stuff. And so we were sometimes talking, you were like, well, what about bringing this person? What about paying for this? And I was just thinking, okay, well, if we can afford it, then fine. Like, I didn't know what was going on. And that was a big mistake on my part. And I think at some point you had this conversation with Mike Arnstein, and he's like, you're meant to, if you've got any money left over, that's wrong. You should blow it. And I'm just like, Mike, you just don't know how to run. Like, you want to lose money. That's
well, Mike comes from deep pockets, right?
Mike, I don't know. Like, I guess.
Yeah. So Mike has deep pockets. We didn't have deep pockets. So we're getting advice from someone, or I was getting advice from someone who has deep pockets, saying, dude, just like at least break even.
Well, this is what there was a conversation, because you started to want to add the music. Like, you always wanted the music, but I was like, yeah, music's no problem. There'll be people that come with guitars.
Yeah. You wanted free music. I wanted like to pay like top guys.
I was like, we'll just get a local band, whatever, no problem. All of a sudden, this Holly gets involved. She's getting paid, whatever, she's getting paid. She's advocating for all these bands to get paid thousands of dollars. And I'm just like, wait, what's happening here? What's happened? And you're like, this is my dream. This is what I want. And I'm like, okay. And I'm just like, we need to cancel. I remember a point we had a conversation. I'm like, Ted, we need to cancel all of this music.
I know.
Cancel all of this stuff.
If we did, then we would have broke even.
Yeah. And I remember being like, we need to cancel this, And you were just like, this is my dream. It doesn't matter if I lose money. I'll pay for it. And I'm like, gee, if you're good, I really don't want you to do this, Ted. Like, in me, I was just like, I really don't want Ted to lose money. Like, I was like, I can't, because I knew you hadn't felt what it was like to go to a festival, and like I'd lost money at events before, so I knew what it was like to be there, and like the feeling of.
It's crazy because you put on all this work, right? You build something super epic. You bring so much value to people, and we're told that, hey, when you bring value, you make money. well, not with the festival. Like you can bring major value and lose a lot of money. So you got to be smart with it and creative. And yeah, it was just a good learning experience, but it's a sweet festival.
There was some cool, yeah. The both of the Canada Fruit Fest were awesome. I mean, there was really crazy weather the first time, really weird weather. There was that moment as well, leading up to the festival, where so many people were turning up at your cabin, like volunteers, like 40 or 50 people trying to stay at your cabin. Like,
dude, that was nuts.
That was really bad.
So my dad built that cabin like literally with his bare hands, and he's been there for like, he goes there all the time. It's like his like second home. And in a way it's like my second home too. But I remember waking up at like 6 a.m. or something, morning before the festival, or morning of the festival. Must have been morning before the festival. And because I hear a car come down the driveway, and I wake up to that sound. I'm like, oh, that's my dad's car. I hear the door open, I hear the door close. I hear some footsteps on the gravel. I look out the window, it's my dad. And I look around, and I'm like seeing like, because when I had slept, a bunch of people had showed up as well. So when I wake up, I see not only like my dad walking, but then I look and see what my dad's looking at. And there's like 40 freaking tents all over the property, on the dock, right by the fire pit. And my dad's walking around with his phone, just like filming it all because he can't believe it. He's like, look at all these people. There's people sleeping under the picnic bench, dude, under the picnic tables. There's people sleeping in the stairwells. Yeah, I
remember getting, because I was there because I'm thinking like, well, I'm working on the festival. I know why I'm here, but why are all these random people like already here? Right. And like shouting at me if I'm like making noise. I'm like, wait, I'm meant to be here. Like, who are you? Right. And then but it was, your cabin is like beautiful like that. I love that part of the world, man. I'd go there every year. Like, yeah. I love that lake and everything. That's amazing. Okanagan.
Yeah.
That's legitimately amazing. And I just remember the days leading up to that, and I was like, got to try and figure out how to not lose money with this event. And I'm like, starting to phone people. We're trying to get last minute signups and everything, last minute emails, surrounded by all these people that are like, I need to use the Wi-Fi. I'm like, who the hell are, like, what are you use the Wi-Fi? You know, I mean, like, we're trying to make this work, and we don't, who are you? Yeah, some crazy moments. And
but what was cool is like, because I had the online stuff figured out, I had faith I could crack the code online and start making big money that year. And I was confident that if I could make that money online, then I could then take the money and put it back to the festival. Like the second, I wasn't sure if I.
Yeah, the thing about the festival as well, though, is you can say like, oh, the festival lost money and that. Even though it did, and even if it was worse than it was still built up a 10,000 person email list. Like, there was a lot of great content behind it. Like, there was a lot of good stuff around it, and stuff that's probably benefited you since, and the experience of it. And the connections and there. I mean, there's some magical moments at first. I mean, every fruit festival is like magical, right?
Yeah.
The sad thing was the weather to me. Like, I remember our conversations leading up to this I remember you were talking about we need more
tents
covering, right? And I'm like, really? Canada? We need all these covering? You're like, the sun will be so intense. Like, we'll need to have, like, everyone's going to be burned. We need to have all this cover.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to get these tents. And because I was like, can't we do activities outside? You're like, no, it's going to be too like sun. And I couldn't even picture it. And then just randomly, the first time in 100 years or whatever, there was a storm, like the worst storm ever in the middle of the festival.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, dude. It's like, yeah, that shit can come up. But people still had a good time.
Yeah. Well, like some of the music was good. Bombargo were amazing. Like, that was the highlight to me. Like, that was great moments. And we had great talks. I mean, John Kohler gave it an okay review. You can't say.
Yeah. If we pass the John Kohler test, man, the thing I like about John is like, doesn't have much of a filter. He just tells you whatever he's thinking, and he's got very high standards. So high standards, no filter. That's John Kohler. And so like his reviews are, I feel like they're pretty unbiased. And I'm not saying that just because he reviewed my festival. He didn't say Canada Fruitfest was like the greatest festival ever. He talked some shit about it for sure. But for the most part, very unbiased review. He interviewed a lot of people, asking them what their experience was like. But yeah, that's why I brought him. I was like, he's gonna be our benchmark. He's gonna let people know like what's actually going on at the festival. Yeah. And that's why I was okay with him coming back for the second year too. I was like, I want you to come back for the second year to give another review. With the bricks meter.
But yeah, I mean, so there was a lot of chaos the first year. I've got a moment, Ted. I don't think I've ever mentioned this to you, but so Erin was the chef, and I don't think we've talked about this at all, but I remember the first day of the festival, Erin comes up. This is when people are arriving, basically, or they're about to arrive. Erin comes up to me and she's like, see that pallet of food? And I'm like, yeah. She says, that's all we've got. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, that's all the food that's ordered. I'm like, no, there's food ordered. Like, there's definitely stuff coming, right? And she's like, I don't think there's anything else ordered. I'm like, you are kidding, Erin. Like, there must. Like, I thought there was all these farms and stuff. So then me and Erin get your uncle, and we get in the truck and we go and start buying. We go to all these like local shops. They were cold calling like farms. And they're like, can you send us like tons of fruit today? And they're like, no, you need to like sign up and join and register, and we're closed today. Like, what? And then and see what was crazy about it was a few days, I don't know, 5 days before the festival, we went out for a drive and we stopped outside this place and we see this like, BC tree fruits. I'm like, this is a sign. And we go like, we want to speak to the marketing guy and all this. We go in, we're speaking to the guy, and you're like, I just remember sitting there, you're like, well, we've got our stuff ordered for this year, but maybe next year we'll use you guys or something. And I was sitting there like, how come we didn't order from these guys? Like, how come we didn't speak to them at the time? Like, why? What was 10 for? I don't know. So we had to like have all these super expensive farmers as well. There was a lot of extra like last minute expenses that just made it difficult. Yeah. But that was the best part. The funniest part for me was how we didn't have insurance until the minute of. So they come and like the owner of the property is like, hey, if you don't show us insurance, like now we're shutting this festival down. And then we're like, fuck, we don't really have insurance, but like we didn't tell them that. So we're like, like we're working on it. So I like went out and made a phone call. I was like, okay, I'll go order the insurance now. And then you go up and talk to the lady, and then you put on this act, and you're like, you know what? I'm so pissed off at that insurance company. I can't believe they dicked us around like that. We've been trying to buy this insurance for months, and they've just been leading us on. I'm furious right now. And then she like kind of like, whoa, like calm down. Okay, like it's fine. And that bought us some time for me to call the guy and be like, dude, email me the receipt now. So funny. Yeah, she was instantly on our side. Like she was instantly like won over at that moment. Yeah, because you were on her side. Do you know what's weird? I don't do that so much, and I don't necessarily like that. But now and again in life, I get in a spot and something comes out like that where I just Jedi mind trick the way to the solution, and I'm just like, right, I need to show the angry meat, the angry passion. Didn't you recently get kicked off a plane, dude? Yeah, man, I had to bring that out in the plane. That's exactly what happened. Like, so I was on a plane coming back from Ecuador to Spain, and they're super strict on the mask wearing. And that was it, the mask. The mask wearing. So I had this mask, and it was sore in my ears. I was wearing the mask, but I was sore, so I was taking it off just because like it's painful, and I would just take it off, relax. But the air stewards kept on seeing it. They kept on coming past, and they were like, "Put on your mask" and everything. So I was like, "Okay." And then sometimes I was a little bit rude, I guess, because they were just being a bit angry and a bit rude. And he said, "Why aren't you putting on the mask?" I was like, "I don't want to put on the mask. Like, I don't want to. And I didn't actually say it felt uncomfortable. Later on, I realized that's why I was struggling with it, because it was uncomfortable. But I also had this thing in me, like, if no one makes it uncomfortable for the air stewards, they're not going to go back to their managers and go, listen, we can't do this. We can't keep on telling people to do this. So I had this in my mind, like, I need to rebel just a little tiny bit, not too much, but just a little bit to make a point. And so the plane comes to a stop, and no one, like, I don't even understand Spanish, so I didn't know what they were saying in the thing. So everyone's sitting down. Usually in a plane, people stand up when it lands and they get their bags out. So everyone's sitting down. And I'm thinking, we're staying for a long time in this plane, looking out. I'm standing up, anxious, like, when are we getting up? No one, everyone's sitting down. All of a sudden, like, these two, like, 6'5", like, armed, like army looking guys, like berets, like beret hats, like machine guns, like full on vests and everything. They're on the plane, like, speaking to the air steward, like, who is it? That guy down there. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is for me? Like,
They paused the plane for you?
Yeah. So these armed guys come up to me and are like, where's your passport? And this is in front of the whole plane, right? So everyone's just like, who's this fucking crazy guy, right? And who the fuck are we on a plane with? And I stand up and I bring out that side of myself. And I'm like, who are you? Like, they're totally confused at this point. They're like, give us your passport. And I'm like, why? Why do you want to see my passport? Just being like an arse. And just arguing with them. They've got machine guns. Like, they're like these huge guys. So I just started getting really angry at them and, like, making them feel uncomfortable. And I gave them passport. And then I was like, right, guys. And this is how I started to act towards them. They're like, right, guys, come on, let's get off the plane. We need to go deal with this. Like, let's go. So I start marching off the plane. I'm like, come on, guys, come on, right? And they're like really angry at me, like, but slightly they're getting a little bit like alpha, like they're starting to bow down to me a little bit. And I go past the air stewards, like, you fucking liars, you like shouting at them, how dare you lie about that and all this. We get off the plane, and I'm standing like, come on, let's go. Are we going up here? Come on. Like, starting to order these guys around. There's another two guys by this point. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, this is me survival mode. Like, I don't know I'm going to get put in prison here. I don't know what's happening. These guys are going to beat me up. Like, that's really what was in my mind. And then they literally just telephoned someone, checked my passport, gave the passport back. Okay, go. That was it. And I walk away and I'm like kind of shaking, like adrenaline and stuff, and just like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, why was I acting like that? But something came out of me that was just like, I don't know.
That was some Scottish blood detox.
In some situations that comes out and it works. I don't know. It's just like, it's enough of it's like someone wouldn't get angry unless they were right, maybe. I'm not sure what it is. Like, it's just that kind of like, it gives them enough doubt to go, this guy wouldn't act like this if he was
right
guilty. He would be like apologizing and stuff. So, but I don't know, man. It's yeah, that kind of stuff probably comes from like these experiences at festivals where you're just like, we need to do something in this moment right now. I need to say something. We need to do something. And the same with like, it's a test. Like, it's been a great sort of divine test, like these festivals and keeping it all together. But yeah, so Canada Fruitfest 2, but it was at the same time. So we went to Woodstock after that. I drove to Woodstock with Steve and Konstantinos. You came after. We had a conversation.
I took a picture of the agreement when you guys were like shaking hands to agree or hugging to agree that tomorrow you're going.
Yeah.
I gotta capture this moment because it's epic. Because you decided in the moment. You had like a flight booked already or something.
Yeah, I missed my flight. Yeah.
And you're just like, they asked you, like, you want to come? And you're like, yeah, I'll go. It was just like in the moment, dude. You wouldn't even think about it for more than a minute.
Yeah. And it turned out to be a really super.
And the reason I took a picture was so that you couldn't go back on your word.
Yeah. We
It
all.
was like such a moment. I was like, hey, it's a special moment. And I don't want Ronnie to say like, oh, I changed my mind. There's a picture taken now.
Yeah. And it's beautiful driving through BC. Like really, part of the drive is beautiful. Last part of the drive is pretty good. The like 20 hours in the middle is not much happening in the middle. So
Nothing happening.
crazy. Like so, uh, but that was fine. And then at Woodstock, we had a conversation, and you kind of wanted to just take the festival for yourself and run it. And
Yeah, my goal was I was like, because our goal was to split the profits for the first Fruit Fest. And because there was no profits, it was just a big L. I didn't want you to take the big L because I knew a big reason was that because I wanted to make my festival, or the Fruit Fest like a big music fest and lose a bunch of money, whatever. So I was like, don't worry about the L. I don't want you to have to take that burden on. Just I'll take it on. And then I'll just do my best to make a fuckload of money with online courses and coaching and hopefully keep the festival alive for the
yeah,
following year.
I mean, I was disappointed in myself. Like I was disappointed. Like I totally saw that as my own loss as well. Like that was my fault. Like I totally thought like, and to some extent responsible. Like I'd put you in that. I'd kind of convince you into that position a little bit, and like, and yeah,
I
it
didn't feel that.
was possible. It was totally possible to have done it and probably not lost money and stuff, but it didn't happen that way. But I could have helped out more or been part or been more accurate in certain things. Whatever could have happened, right? But I I guess when you'd mentioned like all the music and stuff, and I was like, we need to cancel that. At that point, I was thinking, right. At that point, I thought this is Ted's festival now. Like this is Ted saying, this is my thing, and I'm going to do what I want. And I just was trying to I was trying as much as I could to stop you from losing money. Like, and I just knew that you just wanted to do your thing. Like you wanted to.
I didn't want to tone the festival down at all. I wanted to just
Yeah.
max it out. So
Yeah. And here's the thing I want to say about it, and anyone can say what they want about it. And once in a while, I bumped into someone and they've said something negative about it or whatever, but it happened. Do you know what I mean? Through all that, through all the difficulty, through all the whatever, it happened. It worked.
yeah.
Lives were changed. Like people were enlightened by it. Like people met friends. Like
People got married and have kids now because of that festival, dude.
yeah.
I know multiple marriages now with kids.
But you from there pretty much, because of, like, I think the story goes like because of that financial situation, you got more like focused on the entrepreneurship and everything.
Had to.
You had a reason. You all
Had to.
bought a Tesla or something at the same time, so it was another reason.
Yeah.
And like I guess I had a different at the time, although there was debt, I was kind of like, okay, we can figure out this different way of doing it. But you wanted to kind of do your own thing, and that was fine, and that was it. And so the festival went ahead for a second year, just to keep on with the festival a little bit. And I don't know if it'll ever come back or whatever. But the second year, one of my main memories is David Wolf showing up totally, totally, like. And the second year was like the weather was a little bit better the second year, right, and stuff. And it was around about the same size, less music, less the big acts, but second year was great as well.
Yeah, David's showing up, man.
That's kind of like your whole raw. For me, it's like the whole raw food journey, just like coming to like some kind of circle. I mean, like for me, like one of the first videos I found to get me into Fruitarian or vegan 8-10-10 was Harley talking about why is David Wolf fat, and so I was seeing all these videos, Harley attacking David Wolf suing Harley, all this stuff, and then all of a sudden for like the word to go around, David Wolf showing up. That was pretty crazy.
He was a celebrity, man.
I've been pursuing him for for one of these interviews for ages, and I can't get him for the longest time.
He's I mean, he's a celeb. He's elusive.
Yeah. So it's fair to say you've focused more and had amazing success with I guess, coaching, mentoring, helping vegans get their own online stuff together, get their message out. Um, how did you, I guess, decide on all that? What was the story around that? How did that all work for you?
People were asking me how I was able to afford like to live my lifestyle because they knew I didn't have a job for a while. And they're like, how are you affording to do this? And they knew I had ebooks, courses, and coaching, but they don't know how to get started, put it all together. And I wasn't making a bunch at the time, maybe 2,500, $5,000 a month at the most. So I didn't really feel like I was in a place to teach them how to do it too. But because I kept getting asked so many times from people like, how do you live this lifestyle? How do you not have a job? I was like, I'll just put together a training, free training, and show people how it's done. And so I did. And then people got results with that. And I started charging for it, put together like a coaching program based around it, a 30-day sprint. I was like, okay, let's work together for 30 days, a small group. It was like 20 people or something.
Yeah.
And then let's just all create our ebook or course or coaching program and launch it within these next 30 days. Let's get you up and off the ground. And so that worked really well the first time. It's been working really well ever since. So
yeah, I remember when you were focusing on that. My sadness around that was like, when you took over the festival, I was like, in my head, I'm like, Ted's going to do amazing next. Like the festival's going to be much bigger. Like he's going to really focus on it. It's whatever. But it was kind of like more your second thing, and then this other business was obviously working better and everything. And I was all sad about it. I was like, man, I really wanted us to get in a position where it was just that was going to sustain and keep going. And
well, if it wasn't for the virus, Corona, it would have been a third year. Corona wiped out the third year. So yeah, who knows if someone wants to take over and start it up again ASAP, dude, I'd be happy to mentor them through that process.
Probably need a better venue. If you can find, if there's a venue,
you think
has some indoor space.
Oh, indoor space.
Yeah, because you're saying about the weather and stuff, even though it could be good. But if there's a place by the lake,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I think it worked the way it worked. It worked the way it was, but yeah. So let's so I guess your life. I mean, you used to travel the world, but you're like kind of super focused now, and I don't think it's just because of Corona, but you're pretty much focused where you are, working.
It's
your business, like staying focused. Different philosophy, but also you've kind of moved. Where are you with fruitarianism? Are you raw still? Do you ever stay raw or what? Because I know that I don't know when this was, but I remember you started to say to me like you were thinking of you'd been 10 years raw vegan or 10 years fruitarian, and you were thinking you wanted to see what you could do with building muscle, and you're thinking of incorporating in cooked foods. So you kind of consciously did that to try and. Yeah. How did all that work out diet-wise?
Yeah, so I thought, well, I've used fruitarian diet to excel me in triathlon, but I quit triathlon, and I'm like, why am I still like, what am I using this diet for now? I mean, initially it was to clear my skin, and it was to get ahead in triathlon. I'm like, I'm not doing triathlon anymore. My skin's clear. Like, what am I actually using this diet for? And I was finding that it was very hard to build muscle, like size, on a fruitarian diet. So I'm like, okay, well, if the fruitarian diet's not quote unquote working for building size, I want to have like a nice big physique. And so I thought a cooked food diet would do that for me, or allow me to do that a lot easier. So I started eating some cooked food, started taking weight training seriously. And I've realized that that's a lot harder than it looks, even with cooked food. And then by the time I realized that, I mean, my physique started changing a bit, but I don't know if it's from the diet or just from the training. It's hard to know. Then I realized I knew I'm not even I don't need to have a huge body or anything. I'm fine with being whatever. Like not super skinny, not super big. But by that point, I can't just go back to being fruitarian because now I'm back to being addicted to cooked food, So there was a phase, I just started eating way too much cooked food, went up to like, when I was fruitarian, I was like 145 pounds, which I am now today. I got up to 175 pounds. So I got fat, dude. But I remember I was going for a walk. Girlfriend took a picture of me in the woods, and she's like, "Oh, you're not gonna."
Oh yeah.
She's like, "You're not gonna like this picture." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I was like, just take a few more. And she like takes all these pictures. She's like, "You're not gonna like these photos."
Oh
And I
my
was like,
God.
let me look at these. I come and look. I'm like, oh my God, 175. I go home, I weigh myself 175. So bad. Um,
Jeez.
so yeah, then I started taking my weight seriously and just making sure I don't overeat on things. And that's when I started cutting back on the cooked food a lot. And now I don't really touch cooked food much. Like I've been fully raw past 10 days. And then I'm back down to 145 pounds now. So I'm back down to my fruitarian weight.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So you can kind of tell, like you can tell if I'm like gaining weight or not by the angle of my
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
I'm either puffy or I'm sucked in. So yeah, I feel great on fully raw. I can get by with a lot less sleep, and I can have clear mindset throughout the day. And yeah, feels good. And
What was your typical day back in the day on fruit, and what does it look like now?
typical day back then, I used to graze a lot. And now I don't graze. Now I have a like 1,200, 1,400 calorie smoothie in the morning. It's mangoes, bananas, and dates. And then I have a big salad, like 800 calorie salad or something. So typically like 2,200 calories or something,
Nice. So
or maybe just under 2,000 calories, depending on how much I'm running.
so let's maybe we can finish off so people can maybe I don't how much time have you got now? We went over.
I'm super late. I was supposed to be gone like a while ago.
Okay, man. Well, how about we finish off with just let people know where they can find out more, what you're doing these days, how you can help people, be a little bit of advice on that, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I think if they're interested in learning about fruitarianism from me, then they can go to type in Ted Carr Fruitarianism on YouTube. And they'll find a plethora of videos there. And then if they're interested in learning about how to get started with their vegan business, grow their coaching business, they can just go to tedcarclass.com.
And a lot of the people that are doing really well now are in like as influencers, like so many of the people that you've worked with have got really big accounts now. Like
Yeah.
I've seen some of these people like they were working with you a couple of years ago or whatever. And now I look at them now and they're like loads of followers and everything and doing really well. So you're doing right.
Yeah, there's a system that works, man. It's like the reason people don't get results is because they don't follow proven steps. They're like us with the festival initially, just trying to figure it out on their own. But if you follow steps that are already proven, that's not just making it up as you go along. You just do shit that's proven, then you get proven results. So,
I think a major issue with some people that get into entrepreneurship is they're creative, and that's why they get into it.
Yeah.
They're so creative that they want to reinvent the wheel, and it's like just copy what someone else is.
Yeah, totally, man. And
so much easier.
Well, you get in trouble in school for copying. It's called cheating. You get expelled. Right. You're a loser. You're dumb. If you copy. But in entrepreneurship, dude, you have to do that. You copy and then make it your own. And now when I'm like writing emails and stuff, I'll copy paste a really good email that I like, and I'll just retype it up. I'll add my own words, but like the framework is there. So send it out and the email converts. And people are like, oh, wow, Ted, you're good at writing emails. It's like, just copy paste something, change the words, make it your own, but follow that winning framework. Boom. Same with making an offer. How do you make a good offer? Go find an offer that someone else has already sold you on or that you feel really compelled to buy. And then take their words, copy, paste, change the words so it's your words, but the same sort of framework. Boom, you have a great offer. And then when it comes to what to sell, how do you know what to sell? A lot of people, they steer away from like saturated markets. Don't you think that market's too saturated? A saturated market is a proven market. Right. The reason it's saturated is because it's selling. And people are like, oh, don't you think too many people are already selling that? And I ask, well, if too many people are already selling that, don't you think too many people are already buying that?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're like, you're right. They're maybe too creative and they want to like invent something. They want to like invent a wheel rather than just using the wheel. So succeeding in business is like that. You just got to do what works and stop trying to be an inventor and just be a helper. Focus on coaching rather than inventing. So
at Fruitarian on Instagram, at Fruitarian.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend following me on Instagram, to be honest. You can follow me, you can unfollow me. I hardly post on there, dude. It's like my team that posts on there, and we just repost other people's photos, and then we like put some random caption in there. My team does it all. I'm only on stories every now and then. Best place to
So
find me
people
is
need to
YouTube.
join your group then, like the Facebook group.
If they want info on raw foods, just type Fruitarian Ted Carr on YouTube.
Sure.
And then if they want information about business, they go to tedcarclass.com and they can watch a full training and get access to everything after that.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Awesome. Listen, Ted, thank you so much for giving me giving us some time. I love you, man. I think you're amazing. You've been a big part of my life in a number of ways. It was really a pleasure to work with you, and you were kind of frustrating at times, but you follow your dream and like you make things happen. So that's why I knew you could do it. Like I knew that the festival could happen because you were already making things happen. So but beautiful, and everyone should go and check you out if you've not heard of Ted. I'm sure most of you had. Any last thoughts before we finish up?
I think what you're doing with the UK Fruit Fest is super important, and you gotta like somehow keep that alive, whether it's an in-person event or a virtual event. Like just bringing people together like you're doing is so important. And I wouldn't have done Canada Fruit Fest if it wasn't for the UK Fruit Fest. I wouldn't have met all these amazing friends I have now around the world if it wasn't for UK Fruit Fest. So it's a really special event you got going on, and you got to market the hell out of that thing, man. Fill it up.
Advice from the legend. So thank you, Ted. Speak to you soon. Everyone who's watching, please feel free to share this, like it. We've also got the bundle going on this week. We didn't talk about that, but go to either of our accounts or websites and you can find information about that. The raw vegan bundle, and share, like, whatever, comment, and give us any feedback you like. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode of the Love Fruit podcast.